Okay. DS 8, 2023, the Partners for Climate Change Program, CPC, financial considerations. Can I get a mover and a seconder for report? Mr. Deverell, for coming and presenting to council.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Okay. DS 8, 2023, the Partners for Climate Change Program, CPC, financial considerations. Can I get a mover and a seconder for report DS 8, 2023? I have a mover, Councillor Decker, and a seconder, Councillor Sentence. And now, who's bringing that to the? I'll get Jason Simpson to put the report on the floor, and then we'll open it for discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The recommendations of this report are one, that that report DS 8, 2023, dated February 7th, 2023, regarding the Partners for Climate Protection Program financial considerations be received. 2, that the City of Thorold's participation in the PCP program be approved. And 3, that council appoint an elected official as a joint contact alongside an assigned planning staff member for PCP program updates and plan endorsement. And that concludes the recommendations of this report.
Thank you very much, Jason. I'll open the floor for questions. Go ahead, Councillor Hanlon.
I know that I had asked for this to be brought back for discussion in the budget meetings, and it's been pushed up to this. And it's been mentioned that there's legislation. Can I ask why council never received a copy of the actual legislation in print? I'm not saying that the legislation isn't there, but I know that in the past, council's been told items that weren't a fruition, and we're here tonight to make a decision. From what I read, it's being kind of said that it's being legislated to it and that we have to do it, but yet only 500 municipalities across Canada are part of it. So is it legislated, or is this something that we're doing voluntarily?
Go ahead, Jason.
And if it's so legislated, why weren't we presented a copy of the legislation?
Through the mayor, thank you for the question. So joining the PCP is not legislated. However, it is legislated within the Planning Act as well as other provincial legislation that, when taking into consideration planning functions or planning recommendations, that the impact on the environment and resilience to climate change be taken into consideration. Should council have a desire to receive a copy of the Planning Act, then I'd certainly be happy to provide that to them.
Secondly, can I ask, I thought maybe when I read this, that maybe this should have been brought forward as a committee of council as we do our Robinson committees, our housing committee, seeing that we're into an environmental change, instead of using staff time, we could seek out the public. But if I can I comment now, or do I have to wait, or?
Report's on the floor, so you can comment.
So I want to comment. I'm not in support of joining the Partners for Climate Protection. I've done a significant amount of research. I just want to say, Ron, you're not a conspiracy theorist. I agree with you. I've done a lot of research myself. And like you, when people view their personal opinions and it doesn't go with the flow, you're considered a conspiracy theorist. I just want to say I don't consider you a conspiracy theorist. I appreciate everything you've done. The PCI, Partners for Climate Protection, if you looked up their site, it actually states to help communities across Canada better understand and employ these concepts, the Partners for Climate Protection PCP program from ICLEI Canada. See, that's the catch, is ICLEI Canada. Remember, there's only 500 municipalities across Canada. And I don't know if you know what the ICLEI is, but it's actually a organization that is closely associated with the World Economic Forum. And their funding partner for the ICLE is a real estate foundation of BC. And one of the biggest ones in the United States, my concern is the BlackRock owner, who is one of the biggest real estate holders in the US. He was named to the board of trustees, and they believe in Klaus Schwab's theory, you will own nothing and be happy. And you can check yourself. PCP is solely funded by the ICLEI, who is funded by Google and many other multi-billion-dollar corporations. They support UN climate change, biological diversity, and combat desertification. But that's talking about alternative farming, alternative livelihoods. They talk about eating crickets, mealworms, among other edible insects. They actually say right in their literature, we influence sustainable policy and drive local action for low emissions, nature-based. They put that right in it. That's what their objectives are. It's part of the World Economic Forum, equitable, resilient, and circular development. But the one thing is that when you go to the ICLEA's website, who funds the group that we're asking to join today, their first heading is non-governmental organization. It's private driven. And just to let council know that the ICLEI Secretary General had and has been appointed the World Economic Forum's Council on Urbanization. So that concerns me, is that when they mention about how in their things, as I mentioned, equitable, resilient, and circular development, and I look at, and they proudly say we influence. And you look at influence as potential influence, domineering influence, and interpersonal influence. And influence is the power to change, affect something or something. And they openly admit that's what their objective and their goal is. They talk about circular. Well, circular of an argument is already containing an assumption that what is to be proved and therefore fallacious based on mistaken belief. They promote that. It's all in their literature, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist. Any member of council can go on. You go to Partners for Climate Protection, it'll take you to who they fund are by, ICLEI. And fallacious is a circular argument, also known as circular reasoning, is considered a logical fallacy because when you make this type of argument, you aren't supporting your claim with logic. Instead of using your claim to prove that the premise for the claims are true. And the World Economic Forum, it's, if you go through it, it's open. Like Ron says, you can go on to headers, you can get all the information. This is on their own website. And they actually say that there are granting scheme is conducted. And they have another side to them. It's called the ICLEI Action Fund. That's where they get their money. See, their money comes from Google and Pfizer and all these other high-tech corporations, people that I wonder, as a Canadian, I actually have to ask myself, why are these companies involved in the most pressing world issues? What's their goal? And I'm not a conspiracy theory. I think it's control and power. That's what the world's coming to. But their fund, as they admit, is a granting scheme for local governments. And a granting scheme is a large-scale systematic plan or arrangement for attaining a particular object or putting a particular
Councillor Hanley, you
area
have 1 minute
into
left.
effect.
Okay.
Okay. So I just, that's why I can't support joining this organization. I can't. I've researched it. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I've done like Ron has done, and I believe that each and everyone should have their own opinion and be able to say what they feel that they believe in. So at this time, I cannot support joining the Partners for Climate Protection because the biggest thing is at the end of the day, their leader says you will own nothing and be happy. And I can't support that.
Thank you, Councillor Hanley. I had Councillor O'Hare.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. I just want to comment, I have just one fact, and I think it says it all. It's a fact that states in 2020, direct industrial greenhouse gas emissions accounted for 24% of total U.S. greenhouse gas emissions. And this is from the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency. This isn't a quack institute. These are facts, and these are things that we have to recognize. I fully support joining the PCP program. I think this is our future that we have to be looking out for. This is something that will give tools to staff to help guide the direction whereby greenhouse gases can be reduced through our throughout our city. So, short and brief. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Sentence.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Some good arguments, good information. I'll just give my personal opinion, as we all have the right to give our opinion. I believe there is a climate problem. I believe we should be trying to leave this world better when we leave it for our kids and their kids. I'm a visual person. You know, you see the glaciers, you see other things. I have not done the research that you guys have done, but I believe there is a problem. This is a free tool to bring back recommendations that we don't have to take or pay for at that point. And my personal opinion is that we do have a problem. There's 8 billion people. There's an overpopulation problem, and if each municipality, each person, everybody did their part, maybe it would get better. That's my personal opinion. So if it's a free tool to get into this and just bring back recommendations, I will support going into this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor DeRose.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I just want to make a comment. My concern is that taxpayers will have to deal with the financial consequences of not knowing the long-term effects of this endeavor and what this report proposes. We already pay for federal government's climate change initiatives every time we put on our heat in our homes, fill up our cars, or buy goods and services. We pay for provincial climate initiatives through our provincial taxes. We pay for the region's climate initiatives as they're part of this through our property taxes. I feel that when I read this report, I read it 3 times, and every time it was trying to make me feel guilty, even though Thorold has done their part and already taken serious environmental initiatives over the years. Case in point is a $200,000 electric Zamboni we purchased, and other environmental initiatives that have been mentioned to me over the years. Where's this report taking us? In my opinion, this initiative will lead us to being told we will need to replace all gas-powered vehicles within our city fleet with electric ones. The cost will be unbearable for property owners as far as property taxes go. When I asked staff yesterday as to how much this would cost, how much changing over to electric vehicles would cost, they did not have that information because and I just wanted a ballpark figure. There's no way they could figure it out. How is that going to work for the fire trucks and other emergency vehicles? Would you want to trust an electric vehicle to save your life? This report also cites and criticizes fertilizer usage as something we have to change it, so they want to minimize farmers' fertilizer. Tell that to our farmers that are trying to do their part by growing and creating a local food chain supply. So the downside of that is we reduce fertilizer usage and transport food from halfway around the world from a place that doesn't handicap their farmers. The city of Thorold does not manufacture goods. Our emissions are negligible. The irony is that Thorold taxpayers are going to be on the hook for initiatives that will not improve the climate one bit. We are expanding the HOPA corridor with industries that are emitting gases into the atmosphere. We're supporting development to the point where we brag that we're the 4th fastest growing city in Ontario, 8th fastest in Canada, but not one word or concern by anyone on the environmental damage that all this development is creating. Additionally, farmland is being destroyed as we speak. This report cites the United Nations and has tentacles attached to the World Economic Forum, probably the 2 most corrupt entities in the world. And that's who this report is asking us to trust and join up with. An ironic example of do as I say, not as I do, is the Paris 2016 Climate Accord, which is cited in the report. It sets targets that are unachievable by 2030. But the elites that travel to Paris are giving themselves pats on the back and emitting more greenhouse gases at that one conference than the municipality of Thorold will emit in the next 100 years. Ironically, we didn't do our due diligence and allowed a developer to destroy our infamous frog pond without council being made aware. Now we're presented with a report that tries to persuade council that Thorold's climate initiatives will be felt across Canada. I don't believe that for a second. My main concern is the number of staff time that will be needed over the next 10 years to work on the 5 milestones. Correct me if I'm wrong, but staff doesn't have the answers. We don't know. It's an unknown. The report is flawed, and I believe parts of it were provided to our planning staff by outside entities. In closing, how efficient and how reliable will our city's services be delivered using a horse and buggy in the future? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor DeRose. Is there anyone else that wants to speak to this report? You've spoken. I'm going to go over here first to Councillor Deck.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the appropriate staff. It says that it's a tool so that you can access resources. Jason, are you obligated to stay in this Are you obligated to stay in this initiative? Like, can you get out anytime you want if you feel like the tool isn't providing you the resources that you need or that you thought maybe that it would provide to you?
Through the mayor to Councillor Decker, municipalities who opt in to join the group do have the ability to opt out at any time.
Okay, and it costs, and once again, it's just a tool to use to provide resources to help, like you said, with the planning department. But if you feel the tool is not providing you what you need, then you can leave at any time.
Through the mayor, that was the intentions of staff, was just to utilize the tools for some of the work that need to be undergone.
Okay, thank you, Jason.
Is there anyone else before I will go back to Councillor Hanley? Go ahead, Councillor Hanley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to make it clear, I'm not against greenhouse initiatives. Councillor Henry D'Angelo will attest to this. I was going to bring all the newspaper articles with me tonight. Henry was elected mayor in 2006. In 2008, I brought an initiative to the city in regards to replacing our lighting at the arena. I give them initiative. I even introduced a lot of businesses downtown to a free program where they get lighting. Club Capri actually took a benefit of it. The city didn't take me up on my initiative to get rid of the halogen light bulbs and that stuff and go into high efficiency incandescent lighting. We could go from 480 watt bulbs to 250 watt bulbs. City didn't take my initiative then. I was going to bring a newspaper article. I was actually standing on a pile of wood chips at the Thorold Public Works building when we had recognized that in the future we could have a potential for 2,500 dead ash trees in Thorold. And I proposed that when back then, that's how long it took to do this operational building, that we could actually instill a kiln that burns wood chips, the same business right now that is running in that hoppa at the old paper mill there, at the Resolute paper mill. I'll bring you the newspaper articles. I brought that to council in 2008 and said, you know what? We can reduce greenhouse gases back then. We can put a kiln that can hold 14 days worth of chips and we can burn our own wood chips from all the trees that are going to be done in the city of Thorold. And they didn't take me up in the initiative. But now it's a global agenda. It's different. And if you want, I'll present you with all newspaper articles. If I had the time, I was going to go to the St. Catherine Standard. And Henry took the initiative of it, and he installed solar panels on his house. He was one of the first ones that probably initiated it and took part in it when you could actually get paid. It was like 80 cents, and then it went down to 56 cents per kilowatt hour. So don't get me wrong. I'm not against greenhouse gases. I recognized it was there almost 2 decades ago, and council neglected to do anything about it. What I'm against is joining something that is now a global initiative, and the person that's promoting it is, like I said, believes in you own nothing and be happy. That's mine, and I'm not against it. So I just want to make that sound. I'm not against greenhouse gases or say that climate isn't changing.
Thank you, Councillor. Is there anyone else that wants to speak? Go ahead, Councillor O'Hara.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to say one small thing, and that is that this program doesn't cost us anything. And we are not bound by any suggestions that we discover through utilizing these tools that will be available to us. But if in any small way it's able to reduce our electrical costs, it's able to reduce our heating usage, then through some small measure, wouldn't we want that? Not just for cost savings, but also to reduce the greenhouse gases. So as I say, we're not bound by it, but it is a tool, regardless of who it's from, that we can utilize.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Councillor DeRose.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the manager of building. Jason, are you able to tell us over the next 10 years to reach the 5 milestones, what it's going to cost us in staff time, of course?
Through the mayor, that analysis has not been identified, nor has it been identified that Thorold would even be striving for those 5 milestones. That would be a council decision. Right now, we're just looking to join to gain access to those free tools.
So you can't tell us a projected cost?
Yeah, through the mayor, I wouldn't be able to tell you a projected cost or if there would be any cost at all.
There wouldn't be any cost at all. Well, staff's gonna be working on the milestones. It seems like an incredible amount of time. So I disagree with that. I think it will cost a lot. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else before the report gets voted on? Go ahead, Councillor Dan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not going to really speak on this. I have quite a bit of questions and some comments, but I'd rather, because I haven't spoken, I'd like to defer this to the Climate Change and Biodiversity Advisory Committee. I think they can have a good discussion there and bring back some thoughtful information. That's my suggestion, so I'm going to be deferring it. I know there's some people for it, people against it, but I think we set up these committees. Let's utilize some resources of the members that sit on these committees. So that's mine. I know Councilor O'Hara is on that committee.
So you're asking to defer it, so there'll be no debate on that. Do I have a seconder? And defer it to that committee.
That is correct, Mr. Mayor.
Can I get a I've got Councillor DeRose. There's no debate on that. It's referring this to the appropriate committee, which is.
Yeah, it's the Environment, Climate Change, and Biodiversity Advisory Committee.
Okay. There's no debate. All those in favor? What? All those in favor? Opposed? I'm opposed. You're opposed? Yeah. Okay, so now we can go back and talk to the report. Okay, go ahead, Councillor Lawler.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll make a few comments. I didn't support that deferral because it's going to go to a committee, obviously, that's concerned about the environment. And my feeling is they're just going to come back and say, go ahead and do it. So there's been a lot of discussion tonight. It doesn't cost anything. It's tools. At any time in the future, we can opt out if we wish. And if budget requirements come to council or a budget meeting, we can turn it down and throw the program out. So I understand there's a lot of passion here. There's people that say it's not a conspiracy theory, yet we're worried about large international companies. I just think we need to, in my opinion, it costs nothing. Take it and see if it's of value. If it's not, get rid of it. But again, the reason I didn't go for the deferral was, what's the point? It's like asking the Pope if we should go to church. Like, really? So.
Okay. Is there anyone else further that wants to speak to the report before we call the vote? Go ahead, Councillor Dan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, but that wasn't my intent to get the Pope involved, but but I do have a couple questions. I'm not sure, is the Region of Niagara a member at this point in time? If someone can answer that.
I think that Jason said they are.
Oh, they are? Okay.
Am I correct?
Mr. Mayor, if we could defer this to refer it to Megan Burbeck, who's on the line,
Okay.
she'd be able to answer that question better than I could.
Megan, can you answer? I know that the Regions incorporated climate change and natural heritage into their new official plan, but
So to my knowledge, they are still a member of the PCP program, and they being the Niagara region. The other members of the local municipalities around us are St. Catharines, Welland, West Lincoln, and Grimsby.
Having other, to you, Mr. Mayor, having other municipalities involved in this program, has there been any discussion with them to see if there's been a benefit? Have they gained anything from being having a membership at this point in time?
go ahead, Megan. Do you want to answer that?
So through the chair, they have gained the ability to use tools that have allowed them to instead of utilizing consultants to work on projects, they've been able to do it themselves easier through their committee groups and minimal staff time.
Okay, that sort of answers that question. One of my biggest concerns right now is our planning department is really taxed in getting their work out the door and meeting deadlines and timelines. I don't want to burden them with additional work because we're one of the fastest growing cities, but there's a lot of complaints out there, and there's phone calls not being returned, there's emails not being returned. You know, I was at the Committee of Adjustments, there's some reports that aren't coming there on a timely basis. So that's my concern, is the planning department having the ability. I know there's staff time that will be going into this. I just don't want other work being put aside. We're just revamping the planning department. We've added a couple new additional members, which is great. I think that alleviates some of the concerns I just mentioned. But and that was part of my deferral, is to get through a bit of the reorganization and a bit of movement, getting planning caught up with the work that has to be done. That's critical for us moving forward with a lot of items. So I just don't want this to become a burden and use extra time. So if we do move forward with this, I would like to see a record or a tracking of how much time is being spent on this from our planning department, because if other things aren't getting done, that's one of the critical things that I'm very concerned about. So I just wanted to make sure that was out there. And then I had some other questions, but I don't want to be here all night discussing this. I think there's been a lot of good points, but I'm very, very concerned about the planning department and their capacity to deal with the workload that's being put upon them.
Thank you. Okay, is there anyone else before I call the vote? Go ahead, Councillor O'Hare.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This would be a question for Megan as well, if I may. I understand that it's mandated that we do the energy conservation and demand management plan every 5 years. So I assume that we're due for one of these plans?
An update, or through the chair, an update would be due by the beginning of summer of next year. This would be something that would be across different departments, primarily public works and planning.
So I read in the report that the cost of completing the work through this would be approximately $50,000. So through the report, are you saying that this $50,000 could be reduced simply by using this PCP program?
Through the chair, that was the thought of staff.
Great. Thank you very much.
Okay. Did you want to comment, Jason?
I just wanted to comment on Councillor O'Hare's question there. Right now, we're just looking to access the tools in hopes that we would be able to minimize costs to the municipality by doing some of that work in-house. But until we actually get access to those tools and we wouldn't be able to give a realistic number as to what it may be reduced by.
Okay. Okay. Did I didn't get a mover in a seconder. I do?
No, you already have it.
Okay. I've got a mover and a seconder, so I'll call the question. All those in favor? Go ahead, Councillor Dan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just wondering if I could change the recommendation here. In terms of participating, can we change the recommendation number 2, that the city's participation in the PCP program be approved, and that a 1-year annual review of the program will be done? And then, again, I'm not wordsmithing this to great, but what I'd like to see there is sort of this is a pilot project for the next year. Let's see what tools come back, and in a year review this if we're going to maintain this and keep going forward with it. I'd like to see something like that in there that gives me a bit more comfort level.
Let me just, would you have a seconder for that amendment? Okay, Councillor Longo, and we'll get the wording and make sure everybody's happy with the wording.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
That staff be directed to conduct a 1-year annual review of the program. Is that good?
Yes, and it, as long as at that point in time when it comes back, council has the ability to continue or not continue, so I'm good with that. Captures my thoughts.
Anybody else? Is everybody good with that? Okay. Okay, so now we'll put that question on the floor with that, do we have to vote on that separate?